The Los Angeles Chargers have their eyes on the playoffs, while the New England Patriots would love to play spoiler Grinch style. Locked On Patriots, Locked On Chargers, crossing the streams here on Crossover Thursday.
You are Locked On NFL Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Chargers fans and Patriots fans, thank you for joining us here on this Week 17 crossover episode of Locked On Chargers and Locked On Patriots. Daniel Wade representing Locked On Chargers. I'm Mike Debate of Locked On Patriots. And of course, folks, Crossover Thursday is presented by Prize Picks. Download the app and use the code LOCKEDONNFL to win $50 instantly when you play $5. Pats fans and Bolts fans, we hope you all had an enjoyable Christmas holiday. And Daniel, thank you for joining me here today. Been looking forward to this crossover for a while. Week 17, hard to believe the regular season is just about over. Pats Chargers, doesn't get any better than this on a Saturday afternoon post-Christmas.
It does not. I'm very excited about it. I'm not much better to feel the kind of holidays than having some football, December football in some cold weather. I'm really excited about it. I know Chargers fans are getting close. They're feeling it. One win away from the playoffs. This is a huge game for them going into this weekend.
Oh, without question. You know, these two teams don't see each other that often, but there's a deep history here between the Patriots and the Chargers. Not always necessarily pleasant, some acrimony there. But bottom line, there are a lot of memorable matchups between these two teams, both in the regular season and the postseason. Folks, could Saturday's matchup be another instant classic? Well, Dan and I hope to pique your curiosity on that very subject today, because we have an action-packed show here for you today on Crossover Thursday. Daniel is going to bring Pats Nation up to date when it comes to the biggest stories from a Chargers perspective. Then we're going to flip the script, and I'm going to provide everything you need to know about the Patriots. And lastly, we'll provide our respective paths to victory for this Saturday afternoon matchup, 1 p.m. kickoff from Gillette Stadium in Foxborough, Massachusetts. And Dan, let's kick things off from a Bolts perspective. Chargers are entering this game at 9-6. If the playoffs started today, the Bolts would own the 6th seed in the AFC. And without question, there has always been a ton of talent on both sides of the ball for the last few years when it comes to the Chargers. But the impact of Jim Harbaugh on this club is palpable. It's absolutely obvious. You can see it. You can feel it. There's just a different aura on this team right now since Jim has taken the reins as head coach. Just his presence has elevated this team's performance on the field. But from an insider's perspective, you see things that us mere mortals don't see outside of Chargers Nation. So how would you define the Harbaugh effect on this Chargers club in 2024?
Man, it's a night and day difference than what they have seen. I mean, you're talking about a team that is fresh off of hiring 3 first-time head coaches and going into the coaching search after the 63-21 blowout to the Raiders last year. It was just like, give me someone who's done it. Give me someone with a little bit of pedigree. Give me someone that is going to come into the room and demand the, accountability from this team, but also have the trophy case to demand that kind of respect from his team, because every coach goes into a locker room trying to get the respect of that locker room, trying to do all the right things. But it just comes with a different kind of presence when you're talking about Jim Harbaugh, dude, who not only has the trophy case now, but also is out there, pulling sleds in cleats, wearing wide receiver gloves, like playing catch with Justin Herbert before the game. I mean, Jim Harbaugh comes with a certain kind of pedigree and has brought that culture already. I mean, the culture has changed. I mean, it's 180 degrees with what this team is right now. And I think part of it is going to play a huge factor in this game, because I think if you're looking at kind of the statement wins for the Chargers, there's not a lot of them. But the one thing that they've been able to do consistently pretty much the entire season is take care of business and beat the teams they should beat. And I think we both say on paper, this is a game they absolutely should win. And I think the biggest story going into this, as far as what's going to play a factor in that, is will J.K. Dobbins play? Is a dude who was on injured reserve, has missed the last 4 games, is now eligible to return. They did activate his return window. And without him, they've been pretty bad running the football. They weren't a great running team. They weren't that prototypical Jim Harbaugh team even with him. They always lacked the consistency. They always have been kind of searching for it. But you're talking about on paper, the Chargers should be trying to exploit the Patriots' run defense and trying to be able to run the football. But Without J.K. Dobbins over the last 4 games, the Chargers have averaged less than 75 yards on the ground per game. With J.K. Dobbins in the lineup, they averaged 118 yards per game. You're talking about almost a 50-yard difference for one player. So his status for this game, he is back at practice already. The practice reports aren't out yet, but J.K. Dobbins is out there at practice. His ability to play in a huge game this weekend, I think, looms large.
Oh, without any question. Again, what it does is it automatically raises that level of anticipation, especially here in New England, in terms of the type of team they're going to be facing. Knowing that it's a Harbaugh coach team, it makes you find newfound respects for guys like Dobbins and that running game, which Jim Harbaugh loves to employ. He's definitely going to be dialed in. That kind of leads me quite nicely into my next question for you today, Daniel. And obviously, Justin Herbert remains one of the best quarterbacks in the league. He pretty much has been since he stepped on a pro football field. 18 touchdowns against only 3 picks. Been doing that despite dealing with ankle injuries throughout the year. So very impressive for this kid to really show toughness and mettle through an injury and be able to have the type of season he's having. He's getting some help from unlikely sources. Rookie Ladd McConkey, that I know was a popular name here in New England as a potential draft pick last season. He's having a very good year, 69 receptions, 960 yards, 5 touchdowns. Quentin Johnston is leading the team with 8 touchdowns. And we haven't even really gotten into a point that you touched on just a couple of moments ago, and that's this running game that Jim Harbaugh would love to employ with JK and with Gus and getting those guys involved and really having that be not only a compliment, but maybe even a focal point when it comes to what this team would like to do offensively. Again, what's impressed you most about the Chargers offense this season as opposed to what we've seen the last couple of years?
I think that the commitment to the running game has been much better. I mean, there's always going to be a couple of games here and there where it's just not going to be in the cards and the game flow just isn't going to allow for it. But I think the commitment to it has been a lot different this year, even if like the success and the week-to-week success hasn't been there. But I do know that one thing this team wants to do over these final couple of weeks, especially when we're talking about December football right now, is get that thing going. Show over the last 2 weeks that you can have a consistent running game, because when it does look good, and I think especially in this matchup, it's going to be important, you can have a game like last week where you're up by 3 late in the fourth quarter, and finally, after using the battering ram all game and maybe not getting the results you needed, you break a 43-yard run that totally flips the field position and leads to the touchdown that puts you up by 10 in that game. And I mean, I think if you're a Patriots fan, you only have to go back to last week. Josh Allen wasn't great throwing the football in that game. I mean, just frankly, that's what it was. What carried them was their running game. And I think when you're talking about Justin Herbert playing on 2 bad ankles, another reason this team really wants to stay committed to the running game is so they can protect their quarterback. The interior of their offensive line is not good. They have a couple of bookend tackles they feel really good about, but you have to get Justin Herbert there. You have to win the game, first of all. You're not in the playoffs yet. Go win the game. Second to that, though, get the running game going and protect Justin Herbert, because if you're having him drop back there 40 times and just giving him unnecessary risk, and he gets banged up at all any more than he is right now going into this key stretch of the season, that's a total disaster. So I think that they're happy with the commitment they've showed to it this year. I think they're happy that last week they were able to, even in a game where they weren't running efficiently most of the game, they were able to at least not have to put the entire load on Justin Herbert, protect him a little bit, and the success came later on in the game when they were able to break it open.
Get the run game going and protect your quarterback. Remember that, folks. I have a funny feeling we're going to be delving into that very subject in just a little bit. But one more question for you with regard to the Chargers. I don't want to make it sound like we're only concerned or there's only one focus here on the offensive side of the football. This Chargers defense has the opportunity to make life very difficult for Drake Maye, because this defense is much more effective in the passing game than they are in defending against the run. The Chargers currently allow 213.8 yards per game through the air. That's 13th in the NFL. Very impressive there. 6.4 yards per pass play, which ranks 7th. That's where they really stand out, and they leapt off the page when it came to my reconnaissance that I was doing for this matchup coming into this game, Daniel. The secondary has been very good. That is a surprise considering some of the players that they've had on injured reserve, but really got to give a lot of credit to Tarheeb Still. He's got 4 interceptions. As a unit, this team has 14 takeaways. Christian Fulton has been a solid addition on the opposite side of that secondary, and how could I mention that secondary without mentioning Derwin James, one of the most versatile backs in the league? For the benefit of Patriots fans who are aching to see Drake Maye air it out because good things happen when Drake Maye can air out the football. What about this Chargers defense may make that tough for Drake to do this weekend?
Yeah, I think it's the pass rush, right? Like that is the one place on paper when you look at where the Chargers could exploit the Patriots in this game. It's you want Drake Maye to air it out, but you have to be at least fearful of that pass rush. And I think on the flip side, if you're looking at it from a Chargers fan's perspective, it's, hey, we're paying $70 million to 2 edge rushers. This is a big game, 1 game away from the playoffs. Those dudes have to show up. The Khalil Macks, the Joey Bosa's have to show up. Tuli Tuipulotu has to show up. But I think as much as Patriots fans want to air it out, the best chance they're going to have to do that is by keeping the Chargers defense off balance. If you let them get into obvious passing situations and you let Jesse Minter, who has done really, really good job, especially against rookie quarterbacks, especially when you give him those 3rd and longs to kind of give you something crazy to look at and not know who's coming, and then you still have to win your one-on-one matchups against a Khalil Mack, you're going to have an issue, right? I mean, if you're looking at it, Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack versus Javonte Jacobs, that's the matchup you're looking for. That's where you want to do it. And I think with the interior coming along the way they have, kind of some unexpected contributors like a Poona Ford, like a Tier Tart, it'll be for the Chargers, hey, how do you get them in those obvious passing situations and not let them just let Ramondre Stevenson get them into 2nd and 2s and 3rd and 1s and things like that? Because if you can get the Chargers in those situations, you can catch them guessing at times. We've seen it on a couple of big plays they allowed the Titans game. 3rd and short, they go for a 50-yard touchdown. You saw it again a couple of weeks ago. Same thing. 4th and 1, T. Higgins, 40-plus yard touchdown. If you can get them in those situations where you catch them guessing, Drake Maye might be able to find some big plays down the field. But if you get stuck in these 3rd and 10s with this pass rush and what they should do in this game, it could be an issue.
Yeah, absolutely. And you saw that as a tale of 2 halves with the New England Patriots and the Buffalo Bills last weekend. Patriots came out early, tested that secondary in Buffalo, found some mismatches. Drake Maye made some big plays. Buffalo makes some adjustments. All of a sudden, the prowess of Buffalo's pass rush came out and made life difficult for Drake in the second half. And the Patriots dug themselves a hole they could not get out of. And I think it comes back to a point that you made earlier, Daniel. These 2 teams, if we're being objective, the Chargers are a more talented team on both sides of the ball. I don't think Pats fans or Bolts fans will argue that point. But the Patriots are proving that they can parlay that puncher's chance into solid results on the field. In just a moment, Daniel Wade and I are going to flip the script, and he's going to put me on the hot seat to help Chargers fans get a clearer picture of what to expect from the 3-12 Patriots. Don't let the record fool you. This team has got some fight. I'm going to explain why on this crossover Thursday episode of Locked On Patriots and Locked On Chargers, right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Locked On listeners, today's episode is brought to you by our good friends over at Rocket Money. And here on this holiday season, and Daniel, I'll include you in this as well, did Rocket Money help you all find any subscriptions you forgot about or that you were paying for twice? Yeah, I can see Daniel nodding his head. Folks, it happened to me. I had a few subscriptions that I didn't even realize I was still paying for. And Rocket Money made it so easy to track them all down. It's like having a personal assistant for your finances. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps you lower your bills so you can grow your savings. It brings everything together in one place, whether it's subscriptions, your spending habits, or even the goals you want to hit this year. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all of the app's premium features. So don't delay, do it today. Holiday season is the perfect time to cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. rocketmoney.com/lockedon. Pats fans and Bolts fans, welcome back to Crossover Thursday here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Mike DeBate of Locked On Patriots and Daniel Wade of Locked On Chargers crossing the streams on this post-Christmas Day edition. And Dan, I am supremely confident that Patriots Nation right now is brimming with your Chargers' wisdom and counsel. They know about this team coming into Foxborough on Saturday. So turnabout is fair play. Let's flip the script. And I know you're a fan of A Few Good Men. I am as well. If Colonel Nathan R. Jessup were sitting here, he would probably say, when it comes to the New England Patriots, You have any questions for me, Counsel?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of questions, and I see the kind of similarities in Justin Herbert and Drake Maye. We talked about it a little bit before the show, and we also talked a little bit before the show. Hey, if Patriots want to take a good loss here where Drake Maye looks good, Chargers clinch the playoffs, maybe there's some sort of handshake agreement, maybe a little poker room kind of deal that could be agreed upon. But when I look at this Patriots team, I think the biggest question that I have as far as, how this game could go poorly for the Chargers, right? When I look at kind of a doomsday scenario, because for the Chargers, you're one win away. The last thing you want to do is leave this game and your playoff chances up to 1 week against the Raiders the last week of the season where you absolutely have to win it, right? No one wants to see that. For the Chargers, kind of one of the nightmare scenarios that plays out in my mind when I'm looking at this game, the Chargers going West Coast to East Coast, what the Chargers' flaws are as a team right now, is would the Patriots be willing to stick with the run enough, to be committed enough to the run, to actually shrink this game and give themselves a chance and not kind of get a little loose with it, maybe turn the ball over a couple times? Like, can the Patriots stay committed and disciplined enough to maybe play a little bit more of a boring game in this one, but also try to expose the Chargers' potential biggest weakness defensively, which is their running game? Because I look at last week and I see that 16 play, 10-minute, 91-yard drive, and I look at that against the Bills and them scoring that touchdown. It's like, well, that could be a little bit problematic. The Chargers have had some inconsistencies on offense. So if you have a team that's shrinking the game like that, taking possessions away from you, and then you have to kind of put so much importance on each drive and having to come away with points on it, that could get close and leave the Patriots in this game. So do you think the Patriots could actually, will they try to employ that game plan to maybe make it a little bit more boring, take what the Chargers defense can give them, shrink the game, and give themselves a shot?
Yeah, I think the New England Patriots can do it. I think they'd like to do it. The only question is whether or not they will stick to it, like you said. And I think that's going to depend on the run blocking that they're getting, which quite honestly, Daniel, has been their Achilles heel. This team right now and the offensive line that's been blocking in front of it has not given Ramondre Stevenson the traction he needs to be able to break free and get those 5-10 yard runs, those bursts through the lanes that are opened up, because the lanes aren't opening up. The holes simply aren't there. They're scrapping for every single yard. So if they're grinding down and they find an ability to take advantage of a line that's either struggling or a line that may include some mismatches, yes, I do believe they will commit to it. Alex Van Pelt has mentioned design runs, possibly even design runs for Drake Maye. That might be a possibility. I know they're trying to do the best they can not to get this kid injured, and I think that's exactly what they should be doing. But you saw them do it a little bit more against Buffalo. They're opening things up a little bit, starting to realize that you have to show teams, whether it be for this year or showcasing for next year, that, hey, you know what? If we have a competent line in front of us and we've got a running game that we can rely on and use that outside zone to facilitate what Drake does well, you have to account for him on every snap. We're going to show you that he can make things happen on design runs. We can even use him in the quarterback sneak in very short yardage situations. So I believe they would, if the Chargers defense does give them the opportunity to run the football effectively. Yeah, you'll see the Patriots take advantage of it, because when Ramondre Stevenson and Antonio Gibson, who I think never gets enough credit nationally for what he does for this team, Patriots Nation has really caught on to this kid as not being just a third down weapon and a receiver out of the backfield, but someone who can take early down pressure off of Ramondre if he's struggling or if he's having difficulty holding on to the football. That's the other problem. Ramondre Stevenson leads the league with 7 fumbles right now.
Ugh.
You have to be very mindful of giving this kid the football, knowing that he has a penchant to cough it up. So all of these factors have to kind of meld into a perfect storm, Daniel. But to answer your question concisely, yes, I do believe they'll take advantage of it, but only if they're given the opportunity to do it.
And the Chargers could give them that. And I think it's funny because we've dealt with the same thing a little bit in Los Angeles, just where Justin Herbert obviously has the physical tools to be a huge rushing threat in every single game. Mm-hmm. But how much are you going to overexpose him to that with the design runs? And I see a lot of that with Drake Maye too. And I mean, the Chargers have struggled with mobile quarterbacks at times this season. And if he gets a few of those third downs with his legs, and something the Chargers have been susceptible to, that could change things, right? Mm-hmm. And I think the QB spy, potentially Deion Henley, maybe that gets involved a little bit. But speaking of kind of just, an Antonio Gibson, somebody who's flying under the radar, I think for Chargers fans, you could fall into the trap of looking at the numbers for this Patriots defense and just being like, okay, well, what's special about it, right? What what are you afraid of when you look at that defense? Yet when I look at that defense, and I'm, after watching the last couple of games, as I always do leading up to this, it's like there's some players there, right? Like there's some good players. They've kept some of these games really close and kept the Patriots competitive. So if you're talking about what this game looks like from a defensive perspective for the Patriots, and if they were to have a really good defensive performance, maybe who are the guys that Chargers fans wouldn't know of, or what that game plan looks like defensively that maybe Chargers fans might be underestimating going into it?
Well, I think the secondary is coming into this game playing some of their best football of the season. So absolutely, I know Chargers fans are well cued into Christian Gonzalez. He's been their top corner. He will continue to be. This kid has exceeded expectations in New England, and clearly someone that I know opposing offenses are always cued in on. But I wouldn't take my foot off the accelerator when it comes to his supporting cast, especially guys like Jonathan Jones and Alex Austin, who are lesser known cornerbacks, but guys that can come in and play the perimeter and the slot respectively and do a pretty good job. Jonathan Jones took away Buffalo's top slot receiver in Khalil Shakir last week, and he did it with a very strong game plan, a veteran savvy that only Jonathan possesses on this team. He's well-versed in the Bill Belichickian style of secondary football, but he brings together a little bit of that new style. So he's going to continue to be someone to account for. Alex, again, is someone that can make plays on the perimeter. He has a tendency to get a little over-aggressive, so that may be an area where Justin Herbert can exploit and maybe kind of bait him into making a move, an offensive target that maybe he shouldn't be making. But there's a double-edged sword there as well, because sometimes that aggression can work to Alex's advantage. He nearly had a couple of interceptions against Buffalo last week. So these are the types of things that I would look at if I'm the Los Angeles Chargers. The front seven has struggled this year. There's no question about it. The guy you want to keep an eye on, if you're trying to run the ball, like we talked about in the previous segment, Devon Godchaux is the guy that you need to try to neutralize, because if he's drawing a double team or he's allowing that middle to close up and to clog, that's going to give the Chargers some fits in trying to run the football. He's the name that I would watch there. And in terms of getting after the quarterback, Patriots haven't done a optimal job of doing that this year, but when he has the room and when he has the option, Keion White is someone with a very strong burst that can get after the quarterback. The absence of Christian Barmore, I think, is going to be very tough to overcome for him. Christian usually takes on the double team, allowing Keion to get free. Without Barmore in the lineup, it's going to make that all that much tougher. But I would still keep an eye on him, because Keion has the natural athletic ability to still be able to make things happen from anywhere on the field.
Yeah, I remember that when he was coming out. I mean, athletic freak too, who presents problems, but I'm glad that Christian Barmore is not playing, because one of the biggest weaknesses for the Chargers is that interior offensive line. And I think it was a great point you brought up about Jonathan Jones, because the Chargers offense, especially recently, if it's not running through Ladd McConkey, it's not running for the most part. And I mean, that 3 of the last 4 games, the Chargers have gotten shut out for a half. 3 out of 4 games, which shows you a little bit of the offensive inconsistencies. If he could have a really good game against Ladd McConkey and force Greg Roman, which hasn't always been his strong suit, to evolve and find different ways to win, I think that plays in the Patriots' favor.
Absolutely, Dan. We've looked at this from a Patriots perspective, from a Chargers perspective, but as Herm Edwards would say, you play to win the game. Each team has a path to victory, folks. Dan and I have our thoughts on what that path will be, respectively. We're going to share them with you when Crossover Thursday continues right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Locked On listeners, the NFL playoffs are almost here, but it is not too late to get in on the regular season action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can finish the season strong with $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. FanDuel has so many ways for you to pick up a W. I love betting on which players will score a touchdown and how many points each team will score. Let's face it, it's thrilling. But that's not the only way that you can bet on who will win the game. FanDuel also has bets for which players will score a touchdown, how many points each team will score, and so much more. So don't delay. Do it today. Visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your chance at $250 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Pats fans and Chargers fans, thank you once again for joining us here today on Crossover Thursday, spending part of your holiday week with Mike Debate of Locked On Patriots, Daniel Wade of Locked On Chargers. Daniel, it's been a blast. We love crossing the streams, cross-country style when it comes to these two teams. But as the late, great Gorilla Monsoon would say, if this were WrestleMania, the time for the talk is just about ended. I say that a lot on my show, folks. I love the quote. My listeners are rolling their eyes right now. Maybe Chargers fans liked it. Hopefully they will. Bottom line, if the Bolts are to come into New England and grab this victory and defeat the New England Patriots, as we both agree they probably should, what are LA's keys to victory?
Yeah, it's a quick question. I mean, give me a second. I was hoping to get a Gorilla Monsoon reference. I just wasn't sure we were going to get to it today, so I'm just thankful for that. But like I talked about a little bit, bring your A game. Like, this is, you're one win away from the playoffs. Like, the Chargers, the great thing about winning last week is you made it all but certain you're going to have a great chance to make it. But you also set yourself up for a potential historic collapse, too. And when you're talking about Chargers, Patriots, collapses, things like that, a lot of bad memories are going to flood into Chargers fans' brains. Take care of business this week. If the Chargers play a B or B minus game, they might not come out of Foxborough with a win in this game. The Bills started a little lax and they got down 14-0. So bring your A game, get off to a fast start. Can't keep turning the ball over like they have 3 times in the last 2 games. That's number one. Show up. I don't know if it's a trap game. You're 1 game away from the playoffs. There's no excuse. You also have extended rest. You're coming off of Thursday Night Football. There's no excuse for the Chargers not to show up for this game and bring their A game. Secondly, win in the red zone. If you're talking about games like this, the key is to avoiding an upset, right? Look at the Chargers. The only sub 500 team they've lost to this season was the Cardinals. What happened in that game? The Chargers kicked 5 field goals. That were the only points that they got that entire game. That could make the difference in a game like this. New England ranks 31st in red zone touchdown percentage. Los Angeles Chargers have the best red zone defense in the league. That is what could determine a matchup like this and determine whether this is a game Chargers fans are sweating in the fourth quarter, as they are many Sundays for eternity, or if you have a comfortable cushion that you feel good about this team and you don't feel like they're letting the Patriots hang around. The last thing, bring the physicality. This is playoff atmosphere. I don't care that the Patriots have 3 wins. I don't. Going to New England is a hard place to play every single time. And you're not talking about New England in September 9th, right? You're talking about New England at the end of the year. And the Chargers, if you get to where you want to get to, you're going to have to travel to Buffalo. You're going to have to travel to Baltimore. You're going to have to travel to Kansas City. So to get this game going West Coast to East Coast, getting a little taste of that, I think is going to be huge. And I think for the other side of things, the Chargers have struggled a little bit with physical running backs. Audric Estime last week bullied them a little bit, 9 carries for 48 yards, going up against Ramondre Stevenson in 42-degree weather, as it says it's going to be right now in Foxborough on Sunday. You have the conditions, playoff type of weather, playoff type of atmosphere as far as what you're going to have to endure as far as traveling and all of those things. Bring that physicality. Bring what Jim Harbaugh wants you to be. Bring your lunch pail to work. If you do that, you're going to have a great shot.
Yeah, very, very good points. And I think it's kind of a mirror image of what New England needs to do here in terms of being mindful of their place in the standings, being mindful of their playoff elimination, but also knowing what's at stake for the Los Angeles Chargers and knowing that if the Chargers do start to press a little bit because they are feeling the pressure, take advantage of those situations.
Yeah.
My first key to victory, Daniel, in this game for the New England Patriots is start off quick. Put this team on its heels. You need to take a look downfield, see if there are mismatches to exploit. Take advantage of those. Drake Maye, Kayshon Boutte could be a very good combination for this team this weekend. If they can catch that secondary of Los Angeles, which again has played extremely well this year, and they may not give you many opportunities. If you see one, you have to take advantage of it right away. That also includes establishing the run and also putting this team on its heels as well. You talked about Los Angeles' struggles in stopping the run. 19th in the league, allowing 124.1 yards per game. They're 27th in the league when it comes to yards per carry. So they're allowing 4.7 there. So if the Patriots can find some success early in the run game, it's going to make it all that much easier for them to use the outside zone to open things up and really allow Drake Maye to showcase his talent, both with his legs and going off script, but most importantly, with sticking to that play action, which tends to be his bread and butter, and something that I think Patriots have to establish if they're going to hope to keep this one close. The other key to victory kind of lends itself in, but it also involves with stopping the run on the opposite side, and that's control the line of scrimmage on either side of the ball. This is a challenge that the Patriots have failed to execute consistently for any game, any complete game this season. But if they can find a balance in being able to force quick 3 and outs for your opponent, grind out this opportunity to keep the ball in Drake Maye and the offense's hands, then all of a sudden you develop that puncher's chance. you have the favorite team on the ropes, and that's where they have to go, and they have to go for the jugular at that point. So if they can control the line of scrimmage, that's going to give them an awful lot of opportunity to make plays and to prevent big plays on the opposite side of the ball. And the last is really, I think, something that's been extremely difficult for the New England Patriots. And one of the things that gives me the most pause in saying that maybe they do have better than a puncher's chance here, and that's either forcing and capitalizing on their opponent's turnovers or laying off their own. This team is not only a team that has difficulty hanging on to the football, but they turn the ball over at the most inopportune times. Talk about starting quick. They did. First two possessions for the New England Patriots in the first half against Buffalo, stellar. The first three possessions against Buffalo in the second half, turn the ball over each time. If they do that against Los Angeles, going to be a long day, and I don't think the Pats have the personnel to be able to recover from it. Chargers will be walking out at Foxborough with a W for sure if that happens.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. The Chargers are dominated in the trenches in this game. The Chargers have been in this scenario that the Patriots are in, right? Where you're looking for the recipe for an upset. And I think when you're looking at how you beat this Chargers teams, I think you nailed it on the head in all of those points. If the Patriots can get all those things done, you're going to give yourself a chance. I mean, Drake Maye's thrown an interception in 7 straight games. I don't feel good about the Chargers' chances if they can't force a turnover in this game. I almost think it's a must. If you're not going to be able to turn this Patriots team over, you're going to let them hang around. And if you let them hang around, Drake Maye's showing you some things. Drake Maye can pull something out. And at the most unexpected times, I mean, that throw he made to Kayshon Boutte last week was insane. You cannot make a better throw. This dude has all the talent in the world. He can run around a little bit. If you let them boil you in the trenches, if you let them catch you off guard, because the Chargers gave up 3 touchdowns straight to start last week, you can find yourself in a hole, because you talked about the 3 and outs. The Chargers went into last week leading the NFL in 3 and out percentage. They're all or nothing offensively. If you can get to them early, you're going to give yourselves a chance. And if the Patriots can do all those things, they will have a chance in this game. And for the Chargers, like you talked about with the Patriots, it's up to you to not let them do that. You get out to a fast start. You make Drake Maye try to do a little bit too much. You see how that Patriots offense can revolve around not being able to run the football, and you might find yourself with a blowout win. You don't do those things, we could be talking about a fourth quarter where we're all on the edge of our seats on Sunday or Saturday. It's going to take me a second for that one, the Saturday flex.
And don't forget, folks, a 1 p.m. kickoff Saturday, Foxborough, Massachusetts, Gillette Stadium, Patriots, Chargers. Dan, this has been an absolute blast. We love getting a chance to cross the streams. And folks, make sure to stay locked in to Locked On Chargers each and every day. Daniel Wade alongside my other good friend, Dave Drogemeyer. They do a great job with that Chargers podcast. As someone who covered the Chargers for a number of years, you know I'm locked into Locked On Chargers each and every day. Trust me, one of the best listens on the network. Pats fans, you will not regret it. Even after these two teams have played each other, you're still going to want to listen because it's entertaining, informative. You can't ask for more. And Chargers fans, if you want to keep your friends close and your enemies closer, you can check me out each and every day on Locked On Patriots. On behalf of Daniel Wade, I'm Mike Debate, reminding all of you to stay safe, stay well, be the change you wish to see in the world. Have a great rest of the holiday week, and we'll see you back on our respective preview shows here on Friday on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.